In 1950s Baltimore, a bad boy with a heart of gold wins the love of a good girl whose boyfriend sets out for revenge.
This is Ryan.
And this is Ashley.
And this is
Ruining Our Childhood,
a weekly podcast where we remove our childhood goggles and put on our adult bifocals to rewatch and review our favorite movies from the past.
That is true.
Yes.
That is correct. Like I say every time. We are a married couple and we love movies, so yeah, that's what we're doing.
Rewatching and reviewing.
Yeah, and this is your first time here, then welcome to this train wreck. I'm just kidding. We're getting better, I think.
I think so.
Should we talk a little bit about 1990?
I think we shall, but we should probably say what the movie is.
Oh. Right when I said we were getting better.
Yeah. No.
The movie is Crybaby, a 1990 classic starring Johnny Depp, and we'll get into the other people later, but pretty much just Johnny Depp.
Yes. That's the big one that came out of it.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of facts about the movie. It was obviously directed by John Waters. It was released...
Obviously. Sorry.
Released in Baltimore on March 14th of 1990, with its wide release in the United States on April 6th. Fun facts about the year 1990. Big movies were Home Alone, Ghost, and Pretty Woman.
Nice.
Big TV shows were Cheers, Roseanne, and A Different World. And then big songs were Blaze of Glory by Jonathan Bon Jovi. And It Must Have Been Love by Roxette. Oh, and one that you will love, Step by Step by New Kids on the Block.
Nice. I was totally into New Kids on the Block. Totally late, but yeah. I still liked them.
What are your earliest memories or recollections about the movie?
So it came out in 1990. I was 4. So I didn't see it in theaters or anything like that. I remember watching it for the first time, I believe when I was like 12 or 13. They were playing it on, I believe, USA. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like they played it a lot.
That is my exact recollections, is that USA played it, I would say, at least once a week during the summer.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I watched it almost every time.
Yeah.
Because I loved it. And I wasn't one of the people, I remember like my next door neighbor, she was like obsessed with Johnny Depp because of Edward Scissorhands and I don't know what else. That's the only one I could think of.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape, maybe?
Maybe. But I wasn't really into him. I didn't really get the whole gist of why people thought he was good looking, because I had seen Edward Scissorhands and I didn't think he was good looking in that. No. Like I liked his character and I liked that movie, but I wasn't thinking, man, that guy is cute with his pale skin. But when I saw this movie, I was like, oh, okay, I can see it now. I see why people like him. Yeah. And that's pretty much what I remember the movie was, how good looking Johnny Depp was. And just there's some sexual parts that I did not get as a child. Oh yeah. I knew they were sexual, but I didn't get what they meant. So I'm excited to see those scenes again, because I literally have not seen this movie probably since I was like 15, 16. Yeah. Though I did buy it. We do own it. Mm-hmm. So it was just one of those ones that I knew I loved as a kid. I bought it and then I was like, I'm never going to watch this. I just own it. Yeah. How about you?
Mine is the same. I didn't see it in theaters. I do remember specifically USA playing it all the time. Yeah. And I was the same way. It was kind of like how I would say like Shawshank became, where I was like, if Shawshank was on, you would just stop and watch it from whatever point you picked it up at. Yeah. I was the same for Crybaby with me. When I would be watching television, I would, oh, this is on? I guess I'll finish this. And I would say, I don't know, this might have been the introduction to Johnny Depp for me. I don't know that I saw Edward Scissorhands prior, but it was always a name that you would hear, like people would say that, oh, Johnny Depp's in this movie, but I didn't know who he was. Yeah. And I really didn't become a big fan of his until later, like after the Pirates movies.
Yeah, definitely. That's pretty much what cemented my love for him, but mostly just for an actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
No, so
I think we just missed the boat because we weren't old enough to be into, what was the TV show? 21 Jump Street?
21 Jump Street, yeah.
So.
No, and I agree, like, because you would hear the name, and then he wasn't making movies that were directed towards kids at the time.
No.
Whereas in, like, the next generation, he did Pirates and Willy Wonka and movies that were more aimed at, and Alice in Wonderland, stuff that was kind of aimed at children. So they probably grew up with him, whereas we didn't really grow up with him.
Right. So. He was doing, like, his more serious introduction roles, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
But do you think the movie is going to hold up? It is almost 30 years old.
I'm going to say yes. Because I think John Waters' stuff is almost timeless.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it's going to, but I won't be surprised if it doesn't.
Right.
So
I haven't seen Hairspray in a long time either. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I've seen the musical, but which is based on his original movie, Hairspray. I do know I did like this movie because it had that musical factor, and it was set in a time that when I was younger, I thought was like the coolest time. I loved the 50s, 60s, like that era.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
Always thought was really interesting. So I don't know if it's going to hold up, but I'll say that it won't. Because I think there's some stuff I do remember about female sexuality and almost like forcing females to do things that they don't want to do. I feel like that is going to seem dated, but I don't know, because I also know there's some strong female characters. Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll see. I know John Waters does push the envelope a little in his movies, but I do tend to enjoy them, so I guess we'll see. But I'm going to say no.
You're going to say no?
That one.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, in case you want to watch along, if you haven't seen the movie or if you haven't seen it in quite a while,
you could check USA Network, because I think they still play it regularly.
I don't think they play it anymore.
No,
I haven't had regular television in a while, so who knows. It is available on Amazon Prime if you're an Amazon Prime member on their video streaming channel. And it is available to rent all the platforms that we've discussed, YouTube, Vudu, iTunes. Mm-hmm. So definitely check it out on Amazon Prime if you're a Prime member. But we own it, so we're going to stick the old DVD in our PS4 because we don't have a DVD player.
Who's got one of those?
And watch the movie and discuss it. So I guess we'll go ahead and hit the pause, as we like to say on Ruining Our Childhood. And we'll be back in just a minute.
Okay, and we're back. We just finished watching Cry Baby. So now we're going to go ahead and break down our movie like we always do with our categories. But usually our first category is about technology. But seeing how this was set in 1950s, in the 1950s, there was a lot of 50s references.
There was.
What were some of your favorites?
Well, I mean, a lot of movies do this. Mm-hmm. If they're set in a certain time, they have to make sure you know.
Oh, yeah.
What time it's set in. And I noticed at the very beginning of the movie, there was a banner that said 1954, so you knew that. And then it was polio vaccination day.
Yeah.
And that was a really long scene, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it dragged out.
It really did.
There was no dialogue or anything. It was just like all the main characters in line to get their polio vaccinations, and it just seemed like it took too long.
Yeah, and at one point, one of the people that they had showed, I think might have been when they showed Tracy Lords, like it worked out perfectly, and her name appeared on screen, and I was like, well, that would have made sense if they had kind of bounced around and got like Ricky Lake and had her name under it and Johnny Depp, but it was, I think hers was the only one that it worked out, because also the last person to get vaccinated is Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have made a lot of sense, like, to have him be last in the credits.
Unless it was like his first movie, which it wasn't.
No.
And it was like introducing Johnny Depp, but it wasn't. So, and then the other one that I noticed was just the fact that Allison, who is the main female character, her grandma ran a charm school, which is pretty amazing. But then it seemed like a charm school, but then it seemed just like a country club in a way, because everybody's just hanging out there.
Yeah.
It was a little questionable. How about you? What did you... I have a couple, but I didn't want to like step on your toes.
There was just a scene where Allison's boyfriend, or at the time it was her ex-boyfriend, is leading the bunny hop through the city.
Yeah, in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, leads it to her house. But there was like a sign that said like, "Squares welcomed here." And they were really big on, like, they got to refer to themselves as, we're squares. And
or the drapes.
Or the drapes, but we're cool because we're squares.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed was the air raid drills during the talent show for the atom bombs. Was that your second one?
No, I had that as like a dated reference because I was like, man, that's something we never had to go through as children, was an air raid drill.
That's true. I remember, because I grew up in California for a couple years before we moved to Montana, and we did have earthquake drills.
Yeah, we did tornado drills
like
and fire drills, but yeah, we weren't worried that Russia was going to shoot nukes at us or anything.
That was past our time.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that, I would say in the middle of the movie, when the whole gang gets arrested for a fight that they didn't start, Hatchet-Face's mother was in an iron lung. And then they brought the iron lung to the courthouse. Yeah,
and it got a flat tire.
Yes.
And he had to jack it up and change the tire.
Yeah, this movie is so weird. That's
total John Waters.
It's so amazing. Oh, and also her parents had a cigarette cart that was parked in front of the high school.
Yes.
And they were selling cigarettes to children.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Good old 1950s when they thought cigarettes were healthy.
Stuff that we would not see today.
Yeah. So, should we move on, or did you have another one?
No, that's all I have.
Since, again, this movie is set in the 1950s, I changed up our second category, so this time it's kids would call it a throwback. Our grandparents would call it the prime of their teens.
Yes.
1950s fashion choices. What did you have?
It wasn't so much that it was 1950s. I just like there was a character named Dupree, and they go visit Crybaby's grandmother at her house. And he was like leaving, and he was wearing a roadkill vest.
I don't know.
And he had a Flock of Seagulls haircut.
It reminded me though of some Little Richard had.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Every time I see that character, I would think of like Little Richard.
Oh, okay.
Like but just with the huge ass pompadour.
Yeah.
Like so big. But yeah, the vest was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I had just a couple of things, like Johnny Depp's character, Crybaby, just wearing the, typical leather jacket with a white shirt and jeans.
Oh, yeah.
And then Tracy Lord's, all of her clothes were pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Just the polka dot dresses, and but they were like tight fitting. They weren't like the square, which was more poofy.
Yeah.
I don't know. The clothing was good. There wasn't anything like, something a knock on, I would say, like Dirty Dancing. For example, there's clothes in Dirty Dancing that's totally 80s and not 60s and what it's supposed to be set. And I will say that this movie does a good job about kind of keeping to, this is the 50s, so they're not going to be having too much modern influences. But I noticed some movies do that. They're like, this movie is set in the 60s, air quotes, but it was made in the 80s, and you could totally tell.
Yeah, no, they did a great job of like incorporating the 50s clothing, and also like it helps set the time, but it didn't distract you or anything like that.
No, because that's the other thing I would say, like bright colors, especially for 1990, would be a thing that I feel like somebody else would choose. And they really stuck to like neutral tones or something that would actually be worn in the 50s, I think.
Definitely.
And then I hated Lenora's hair, she was like the crybaby groupie.
Stalker.
She had like an uneven haircut.
Yeah.
And I also noticed facially, she looked a lot like Tracy Lord's.
She did.
Yeah. It was, if you looked at, like, she just They have like the same eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That was it for me.
The only other thing that I personally had, and it wasn't that it was something that was like, oh, this is distracting. I just thought it was funny was when Crybaby would sing, and he has this big performance. He wears a outfit that literally just looked like something that Hank Williams Sr. would wear, which I thought was
like the two-tone jacket.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. But
it was amazing, and it was huge, huge
shoulder pad ish. Yeah.
I feel like they were trying to hit the swinger. What am I trying to say here? You know how like swing dancing got back in mid to late 90s?
Yes.
I feel like they were trying to hit that, but it was like 5 years too early.
Yeah.
Because they had a whole scene where they were just I just feel like there was a couple of scenes where they were just doing something for way too long.
Yeah.
And then there was other scenes where I feel like they were just rushed and cut too short, and I'm like, okay, but then you didn't explain what happened in between. But we'll get into that later. What about any like offensive jokes or dated references?
Well, we talked about the air raids, but the other one, it was like it was just downright creepy, was the guy walking through the parking lot at Turkey Point. And he's taking pictures of girls, and he's like telling them like knockers up, and then he would take their picture, and I'm like, oh, you're such a
But I think that was like the equivalent to like porn back then. I know that they had it like legit, because like obviously that was a Betty Page was like legit. I think there was nudity, but there was a time where that was like risque too, just like a girl in a bathing suit.
Yeah, because I would say I don't know when like Playboy started, but I would assume
the 60s.
Yeah, that's what I think 50s. It was a little bit after that. So yeah, you're bring up a good point that this was risque and ooh.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, I used to work in a photo lab, just like a side note, and I remember this guy brought in slides, because we used to be able to develop slides, and they were like his grandfather's slides, and one was literally like, it was like a topless girl, and she was like posing like the girl in the car, and I was like, oh my god.
And did the guy want it developed?
Well, it was like he had a bunch of slides. I don't think he actually looked at them.
Oh, okay.
So but I thought it was just funny. I couldn't develop it because we had like a strict nudity policy, but like it was just funny to me because it wasn't that risque.
No.
But at the time, I'm sure it was.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just some other like dated and offensive jokes. They used the word colored, but I mean that was the time, so they used it. They didn't use it to offend anybody. They just used it in reference to that time,
and it was acceptable back in the 50s.
Yeah. And then I just liked how the fear tactics of juvenile delinquents, like especially in the beginning of the movie, they were really into, you don't want your child to be a juvenile delinquent. And I'm just thinking about how easy it was to like scare people into not being different back in the 50s. Like you had to be like a model family, a model like housewife, and if you were slightly a little different, they were like, oh my god, you're a weirdo, or you're a juvenile delinquent because you wear a leather jacket.
I know, because back in that day, I think people cared more about what their neighbor thought of them and stuff like that. Oh my god, how dare they think my child's a juvenile delinquent? But it's like nowadays, it's like, whatever.
I guess there is a reason why people they make fun of the 50s, because like even like 50s TV shows where everything's kind of the same, or their problems aren't really problems. Like that's, I guess, how innocent our world was. But
yeah,
honestly, was the world really that innocent? I mean,
but that was the perception we were giving. Like the perfect family was, the Cleavers and
Was there anything else that you had?
Just there was a scene where I think it was Mr. Hackle claimed that his son's clothes were designed by homosexuals. Like he was a real self-righteous guy.
Yes, it was Milton's dad.
Yeah, I was like, okay, you're a bit much, but that was honestly for a movie set in the 50s, not a lot of over-the-top dated racism. Yeah,
there was just like the slight reference to it, but I think for the most part they really stuck to the fact that there was like the town divided by people that were drapes.
Yes.
And people that were squares. Hey guys, we want to talk to you a little bit about the Podcoin app.
Yes! The Podcoin app pays you to listen to Ruining Our Childhood, as well as your other favorite podcasts. You can use the Podcoin you earn to claim gift cards from some of your favorite stores.
Starbucks.
Check.
Amazon.
Correct.
Target.
Duh.
Seriously, it's pretty legit, guys. Download the Podcoin app today on iPhone or Android and use the code RUINING to get 300 Podcoin just for signing up.
That's 300 Podcoin by using RUINING.
So if you're basically listening to podcasts all day anyways, might as well make some money off the deal, am I right?
Totally. I mean, free coffee for something I'm already doing? Sounds like a great deal to me.
Mm-hmm. So go give the Podcoin app a try today, and also don't forget to listen to Ruining Our Childhood, that's the name of the thing, and make that money, guys.
Okay,
bye! So should we move on?
Yes, we'll go ahead and move on to our next category, which is called Well, Hello There. It's our famous cameos or actors or actresses that we may have forgot were in the movie. And did you have anyone?
There was a couple. The first one I saw was Patty Hearst, and you had to point it out who she was, because I was like, she looks really familiar. Yeah. And you're like, it's Patty Hearst. Plays Wanda's mother. Mm-hmm. I loved her part because she was so mean to her parents. Wanda is Tracy Lord's character.
Yes.
And her parents were just so,
the nicest people
ever.
they
were the nicest people, and just this... My favorite line is going to be the funniest line, is something that she says. But I'll talk about it when we get to that. How about you?
Just back to Patty Hearst, I love that she was the school crossing guard.
Yeah.
And she was teaching, I would say they were 17 or 18 years old, how to cross the street. When they walk up, she's like, now let's look both ways.
Yeah. And she's just so oblivious to her daughter.
Yeah.
It's almost like... It kind of reminded me of when we watched the Heathers and Veronica's parents, how they were just oblivious to what their daughters was really going through in her life, and they were just like,
la la la.
they're just in their own heads.
And then the second one for me was Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
I totally forgot he was in the movie, and he plays the old prison guard who is just a real brief scene.
He's an award winner for Ruining Our Childhood, if you've watched our Spider-Man episode.
That is correct. Past award winner.
Yeah, he's won both.
So, that was the only other one that I had.
The only other one that I had that I totally forgot he was in was Iggy Pop, played Crybaby's uncle. Belvedere.
He was... No, I guess, would he be the uncle, or was he...
They kept saying he was uncle, even though he was dating their grandmother. I don't know. It's confusing. They're supposed to be hillbillies, so...
And I think they're so good in that movie.
Yeah.
It took me half the movie to realize that it was Iggy Pop.
Which I find funny, because, there's not a lot of people that look the way he looks.
Yeah, he does have
He has a distinct face.
Yeah.
But...
Do you have anyone else?
No, that was it. I didn't really see anybody else. I remembered most of the people that were in the movie, like Ricky Lake and Tracy Lords. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty much the only two slightly famous people in this movie. A lot of the other actors, I should have looked at their IMDb's, because a lot of them I don't think. Though I think the Milton guy, I think he was in Northern Exposure, which is funny because there was a commercial for Northern Exposure at the beginning of the DVD that we popped in. So.
Incredibly old previews, because they were advertising stuff coming out in 2005.
Yeah, so. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the category Is It Even Good, where we talk about the plot, the casting choices, and our funniest lines and cringiest lines. And there is quite a few of those, I believe. So go ahead. What do you think about the plot overall?
I thought the plot was fine. I felt like that was probably something that happened a lot back in that time period was, oh my lord, no, this other person from the wrong side of the tracks is trying to date I think it was her granddaughter, because she was an orphan as well.
Yeah, there was a whole discussion.
Yeah, but so I thought it was believable, because I was imagining that's what happened at that time.
Oh yeah, there was, if you're a good girl, then you don't want to date a bad boy. I honestly think that was the only part of the movie that was believable. Everything else was just so over the top. But then again, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a believable movie.
No, this isn't, Goodfellas or something like that.
It's just so crazy off the top, and just it never claims to be a serious movie. My favorite part of that movie, though, as far as the plot not being believable or parts of it that just were questionable, was so Crybaby gets sent to a Maryland training school for boys. I'm using air quotes again. Because everybody in that prison, it was actually a prison, was like 40 years old.
Oh, yeah. They were old as hell.
So I'm like, what? And it's something I never noticed as a kid. And then I'm like, why don't they just send him to prison or something? Like, instead of doing a training school for boys.
Yeah.
When it's clearly a prison full of 40-year-old men. What about the casting choices?
My issue, and it comes up with a lot of the movies, is it's just like, are these people too old to be playing the people they are? And I looked it up, and like, the person that played Allison, she was like 19, which I think
her name is Amy Lacone or Lacone.
Yeah, Amy Lacone.
Lacane.
Like, she was 19, so I can't fault them. And even Johnny Depp, he looked a little bit older, but I think it's just Johnny Depp has a very thin face. He's got like the heroin chic look. But the one, when I saw the person, I was like, holy crap, how old are they? Was Hatchet Face?
Yeah.
And I did look it up. She was 35.
Okay.
Playing a high schooler. And I was like, okay.
But she's not supposed to be. I mean, like, she gets away with it because her face is so screwed up.
Yeah.
That, even though, I think I looked her up one time to see if she's really that ugly, and she's not that ugly.
Oh, okay.
I think she just has jacked up teeth. But they, like, made it worse with her makeup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her makeup was really messed up.
Yeah.
That was obviously part of her charm.
Yeah. She's got character.
Yeah.
That was a line that she said. I wrote that Baldwin, which was Allison's square boyfriend, had a punchable face, which was perfect because you're supposed to want to hate him. Mm-hmm. And then Depp was good as Crybaby. I also noted that, and I looked this up because I wondered if Johnny Depp did sing in this, and he didn't. And neither did Allison, the actress that played Allison. Which is something that frustrates me as a person that loves musicals. Yeah. Because I feel like, especially now, like, obviously this movie was made 30 years earlier, but nowadays, if I find out somebody didn't sing their regular part, I'm like, there's so many talented people in Hollywood. The world. Yeah. That you can find an actor that sings. Like, it's not that hard. No. But it's something they used to do all the time.
They still were doing it. Like, I remember you told me the first High School Musical, they didn't let Zac Efron sing. Yeah. And then Curveball, the guy can sing.
Yeah, he can sing fine.
Why are you casting people for musicals if they can't sing?
I don't know.
Oh, Curveball, they can't sing, so maybe you should just let them. Yeah. But, yeah, I agree with you. Like, let these people sing, and if they're terrible, don't cast them.
Yeah, there's got to be somebody else out there that fits the part. Yeah. There's so many people out there that are talented. Anyway, so how about your funniest line?
I had so many parts that I was cracking up at. I think my favorite scene was the entire Mr. Jailer Let My Man Go Free scene, where like the judge and Allison's grandmother were like totally into it and were like dancing, and the judge is like running through the halls of the prison.
He wants her grandma.
Yeah, to like go let him free. And then there's a scene where like Crybaby and Allison are like separated between a glass, and he's like licking the window and stuff. It was total cheeseball, but I really enjoyed that scene and was cracking up.
My favorite, funniest line was while they were at court, and Wanda said like, "Just get me the fuck out of here," and Patty Hearst's character, her mother, was like, "What does fuck mean?" And her husband's just like, "It's just a word kids use." She's like, "Well, can we take Wanda the fuck home?" And she said it because she's so nice and like she's like a Stepford wife. And it was pretty hilarious. What about your cringiest line or moment?
The moment where Allison and Crybaby are falling in love and they're hooking up, and there's an entire scene where just everyone starts French kissing. Yes. And it is disturbing French kissing. Like, I think I was more disturbed by these people kissing than I was in Not Another Teen Movie when it was Mia Kirshner and the old lady
with all the saliva.
Making out and the saliva. Like, this made me go, yeah.
No, because it just got worse. They showed Johnny Depp and Allison kissing. And then they went to, like, Ricky Lake and her boyfriend kissing. And then they kept moving on. And it just kept getting more graphic and worse.
To the point I was worried they cut to Pepper's children. And I was like, no, they're not going to have
They
these.
just swap
They swap lollipops.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, are they going to have a 7 and a 5-year-old start making out? And their siblings, like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no, it was disturbing, and I wrote down that as well, and I was like, those are not, like, movie kissing, like,
No.
fake kissing. There was a lot of tongue, and I don't know what it is about that. I don't know why that creeps me out so much, as seeing, like, two actors, like, when you can tell they're actually making out. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's just like you're disturbing somebody in a private moment.
Yeah, that's a little
I also put when Crybaby first gets Allison to come to Turkey Point, and she's talking to the group of girls like Hatchet Face and Pepper and Wanda about doing a makeover, so she's, you know, could be a bad girl. And she's like, do you think I have what it takes? And Crybaby's like, you got it, Allison. You got it raw. It's just like, what is going on in this movie?
So bad.
But is there anything else you noted?
No, I mean, that was it.
The only thing I thought was kind of out of character, I know we talked earlier about how we thought, for the most part, the 1950s aesthetic, is that the word?
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, how it was pretty realistic, the 1950s setup. Except for the scene when they're at Crybaby's grandmother's and they're inside their house.
And it had, like, rotating walls and
walls and neon signs.
Yeah.
And a jukebox that looked like it was made in 2000, which was weird because this movie was made 10 years earlier. And it just, it didn't fit. And I wrote down that I felt like it was a room from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yes, it looked like a fun house.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really weird.
It just didn't fit with that, but at the same time, this is a weird-ass movie. I mean, you can't fault it for not being historically accurate. Also, like, somehow Crybaby's motorcycle works after being burnt to pieces.
Touche.
Yeah.
There
was just a couple of things that I noted.
A couple plot holes.
This. Yeah. I mean, there was a whole bunch of plot holes.
Yeah.
Also, the punishments seemed really drastic for a fight at the park.
Yeah.
Like, Pepper got her kids taken away and...
Stuff that wouldn't happen. No. Agreed.
And also, Slow News Day. The news station cares about the lives of these teenagers way too much.
And they put it on the front page. The headline was, Crybaby released from prison.
Yeah, or even when he gets just put in prison and then Allison thinks that Lorraine, or what was her name?
The groupie?
Lorna?
Yeah, Lorena?
Lorena was pregnant with his child. And
Lenora.
There was like
Lenora. That was her name, Lenore.
We'll get it right.
Yeah.
The groupie.
Susie!
Yeah. We'll just call her Susie.
We'll call her Betty.
She was pregnant with his baby, but not really. And then Allison believed the news story about it because what else is the news going to talk about in 1954, apparently, other than a juvenile delinquent knocking up another juvenile delinquent?
Yeah. That's front page news.
Yeah. Silly movie. It's a silly movie. Should we move on to our awards?
I believe so. And as you know, on Ruining Our Childhood, it is always award season.
Always award season.
We give out 2 awards every week. They are so prestigious. The first award is the valedictorian of the Nicolas Cage Online School of Bad Acting. And who do you give your award to?
I had to give it to Allison, the actress Amy Lacone?
Lacone? I don't know.
I don't think her delivery was believable. I felt like she was overacting too much in a movie where everybody was overacting, which is pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody is overacting. Some of the lines are way, way cheesy, but they're supposed to be. But I just didn't feel like she was believable, especially in the scene where her and Johnny Depp are making out and stuff. Like, everything she said, I was just like, ugh. Couldn't they get somebody else to do this? And guess who they wanted to get to do it?
Who?
Drew Barrymore. I looked up the trivia.
She would have been like 15, I would think.
Probably, but you know, she was already pretty much an adult in the real world. But I mean, honestly, if they would have gotten Drew Barrymore, it would have been a lot more believable.
Yeah.
And then her crying when Crybaby first gets sent to the training school for boys. Her crying and then her putting in the tears in the... I know it's supposed to be over top, but it just was so
And then
bad.
she drank them.
And then she drank them. And I thought that was so cool when I was a kid. I don't know why. Not like I was like, I would do that, but like, I just thought that was a great scene. And it just wasn't. And then the fact that her character just flip-flops between her two love interests.
So easily. Yeah.
Like, first of all, she sees Crybaby one time, and she's like, well, I'm dumping this piece of shit over here, Baldwin, going with the hottie over here. Yeah. And then she
believed the news.
Yeah.
This girl who was like, well, he knocked me up. Yeah. Who threw her granny panties at Crybaby when he was performing.
And, yeah, it just flip-flops to that. And then she flip-flops back so easily. Yeah. Like, they just had to be like, hey, we're going to go to the prison and sing to Crybaby. Oh, cool. I'll go with you.
I probably should go and lead this dance number.
Yes. I loved the songs, though. I will say the songs were amazing. They're catchy. And then when she, like, I spit on your tears, Crybaby, like, when she does get back with Baldwin, the second time, I just... her singing scenes weren't bad, though. I thought her singing scenes... I mean, she didn't sing, so her lip-syncing scenes...
She was fantastic.
Weren't bad. But it's just, every time she had dialogue, it was not great for me.
Probably taught Milli Vanilli how to lip sync. She was so good at it.
How about you?
I gave it to Mr. Depp.
Ooh.
And you pointed out one of my favorites was the "You got it, Allison. You got it raw." The other one was when he was creepily French kissing Allison, and then to her credit, she looked at him and was like, "Am I gonna get mono?"
But she said the whole word.
Mononucleosis.
Yeah, I laughed at that one.
And then where it kind of like sealed it for me was he's in prison and they're like, you got to get over here to the radio and hear what they're saying. So he like runs over there, and Baldwin said he was a better singer than Crybaby. And he like growled and was like on the ground, like growling, pushing himself backwards. And then somebody else said something to him, and he was like, hey, that's Mr. Baby to you. And I was just like, oh, you're so bad in this movie. Like, I get the overacting, but some of the line delivery was downright cringeworthy.
Yeah, I get it. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the next one.
I think you know what's going to happen. Feeling.
So our next award is the Thomas J. Hanks Award for Exceptional Acting. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I gave it to Johnny Depp. Only because I thought everybody in the group, like Ricky Lake, Hatchet Face, Tracy Lords, their acting was so bad too. That out of default, his acting was the best. And I think, honestly, it's because he had more scenes than anybody else. But I felt like he delivered those lines because that's what John Waters probably wanted.
Okay.
And I just feel like out of everybody, his was the least annoying delivery. And he has that charisma, and he's really good looking in this movie, so. I'm not doing it just because of the looks. But,
he did look like a young Skeet Ulrich. Which, I mean, Skeet Ulrich looks like Johnny Depp.
I'm pretty sure people say that Skeet Ulrich is the poor man's Johnny Depp.
I don't think I ever realized it until this movie.
Because, you know what it is? Because there was a scene where Johnny Depp had the two little hairs coming down his forehead. And that's a Skeet Ulrich special.
Skeet Ulrich special.
So, but to be fair, Johnny Depp
is older and been in Hollywood more.
Yes.
And much more famous.
Yes. I can't believe I'm defending Skeet Ulrich.
You are. You love yourself some Skeet.
He's on Riverdale. That's a hit show.
Yes, it is.
Give the guy some credit.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Oh, okay. You usually ask me who did I give my award to, but I'll just go ahead and say I gave my award to Tracy Lords.
Oh.
I thought she was, I don't know that she had ever really acted in legit cinema.
This might have been her first.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I thought she was really good in all of her scenes, and I just really liked the scenes where she was interacting with her parents.
Yes.
Like the foreign exchange student that could only say yeah.
Yeah.
She was like really mad. And then you already talked about the courtroom scene
yes.
with Patty Hearst. And I was just like, she was really fun. And I could have watched a lot more of just her and Patty Hearst and her dad interacting. Like, if you would have given me 20 more minutes of that, I would have been okay with it. I thought, for a person that has minimal acting experience, I thought she was fantastic.
Well, I mean, I think porn does require some acting.
Yeah, she was. Let's face it, she was.
No, I agree. I thought her part was really good. She would definitely have been my, like, runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think out of, like, the three girls, she was the least over the top.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and like you said, like, her scene with her parents definitely made it funnier, and her parents were funny.
Mm-hmm.
Which is ironic, because I feel like if you've ever watched Veronica Mars, which if you do, what's up? We love Veronica Mars.
Love us some
But Patty Hearst does do a cameo in the third season, and I like that episode, but I think her acting is not great.
She's extremely robotic, which is ironic because of the kidnapping and her being a robot to the kidnappers and a pawn for them.
In this movie, it works because she's supposed to be that kind of... She doesn't really have, like, depth.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be, like, a Stepford wife, like I said. Sorry, our dogs are freaking out, if you can hear that. I don't know if you can. Ugh. Anyway.
How dare our neighbors live their lives.
Yeah. They're rude. They're so rude by, leaving their house every once in a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we move on to our final thoughts?
Yes.
So, do you think this movie holds up to your adult standards?
I think it did. I kind of take it for what it was, and that it's supposed to be very over the top.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed watching the movie. I don't think there was a lot of points where I was cringing. I think I just overall really still enjoyed the movie. Do you not
remember the makeout scenes?
Well, that was over the top, but
yeah.
I just thought it was a good movie, and yeah, there was some bad acting and stuff like that, but it was really fun, and I would say more than all, I enjoyed it. What about you?
I enjoyed it, but I don't think it holds up to how I viewed it when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've mentioned this before, but there's movies that I watched when I was a kid that I kind of, because I was inexperienced with, like, boys and love, I took those as, like realistic.
Yes.
And this was one of those movies, which is silly because it's so over the top and cringeworthy, but I was just like, that's what... People fall in love in a day.
Yeah. They'll come sing you out of prison if you get arrested.
2 days after they met you.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, the songs were still catchy and pretty amazing. But just overall, it's just, I'm not a big fan of it anymore. I know.
Okay.
I'd still watch it, though, I think.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it.
You wouldn't be watching it every time it popped up on USA.
No, I mean, there's definitely more musicals that I would prefer over this one. But
gotcha. Just
to see a young Johnny Depp's face, that's literally the only reason.
Aww.
So we're undecided again. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes we don't always agree,
which is good. We're different people.
We are. But are we?
Yeah.
Are we? Or are we just one person doing two different voices? They know.
The secret's out. Secret society.
Okay. Calm down, Cecile.
Okay.
So, thanks for listening again, guys.
And as always, we ask that you follow us on social media. If you have any suggestions. Yeah, social media. If you have any suggestions for some future movies we should go ahead and review, go ahead and hit us up on our email.
What is that voice?
I have no idea.
Yes. Instagram, we're at Ruining Our Childhood.
Mm-hmm. On Facebook, we're also at Ruining Our Childhood.
And on Twitter, we're at ROC Movie Podcast.
Yes.
Also, definitely, if you can, if you're listening to us on iTunes, maybe review us.
Yeah.
We would really love that. And it just shows that somebody's listening and that somebody supports us. And if you're not, then, just keep living your life.
Yeah. And tell friends if you enjoy it. Tell enemies if you don't.
Yeah. And as always, we never know how to end these podcasts.
So we'll end it with a good old
bye.
Bye.
Are we asking a question?
I think so.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Why are we getting higher?
I don't know.
Okay, bye.
Bye.